Hey guys, it's Paige and welcome to Hauntingly Vintage, where we're going to be talking about buildings, their haunting history, and of course the ghostly residents that reside there from beyond the veil. Today, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite, better known as the Old Arnold Estate, or as you may know it, the Conjuring House. Yep, the Conjuring House. The one that has now been made a franchise, has about 4 different movies, and of course the stories are true. So we're going to take it back from the very beginning, not with the parent family. We will get into that later. But starting with back in 1636, where Roger Williams established the Providence Plantation in Rhode Island, and including Burville in 1639. Anyway, so the land including the Arnold Estate was then deeded to the Richardson family, and at that time the land was well over 1,000 acres, which gave enough land for the people who decided to follow Williams. Now Williams was basically, I guess, pushed away from his actual home just because he decided to create his own religion. He did not see the religion that they were teaching as the way he interpreted things, so he decided to create a new one, and anyone who followed was able to reside on this 1,000 acres. So the farmhouse actually didn't get built until 1736, or well, that was when it was finished, and it was then passed down from the Richardsons to the Arnolds through marriage, because at that time, or back in the day, women did not have rights, so the only way it could get passed down was through marriage. So that's how it became the Old Arnold Estate, therefore because the Arnolds got it deeded to them. So since then, the home now, as it stands, like I said, was finished in 1736. And after the Arnold family owned it, 2 other families lived in there before the well-known Perrin family. So since then, the home has encountered harsh storms, tragedies, as well as war, and the industrialization of America. It's on record that 8 generations, and of course 1 extended family, have lived on the property, and some still say they reside there today. So this homestead has seen every tragedy, from famine to sickness, from barn to the deaths of soldiers on the battlefield. But not all spirits who reside there are or have died on the property. According to the oldest sister, Andrea Perrin, this place has been, in her words, portal disguised as a farmhouse. So that makes you feel any better? So getting away from the history, let's focus on who everyone is well known, and that is the Perrin family. They decided to speak up about it back in 2000. I think it was 11 or 12, somewhere around there. Honestly, it could be like 2013, and I could have not even remembered. But they decided to speak out about what happened in that home while they were living in the home. So Andrea, who is the oldest one, well, she goes on and says they purchased the land in 1970. They lived in that house for a full decade. They were not able to get out of that nightmare, as she calls it, until 1980. This was supposed to be their fresh start, and she talks way more in detail about the experiences that happened to them, and specifically to her in her book series, The House of Darkness, House of Light. I have personally read the books, and they are amazing. She actually gave the books to the producers and the writers of The Conjuring, and they said that it was so much more violent that they would not be able to use half of what she had wrote due to not getting a rating of R in the theater. So if that tells you anything, definitely check out her books, because there's something if you are really into the paranormal side and investigating the home. So going back to going back to the family, Carolyn, the mom, she was one of the ones that got tormented the worst, as well as one of the middle daughters, I believe it was Nancy, was a victim more so than the rest of everyone. So Carolyn was the one that actually figured out that they had ghostly residents from hearing footsteps upstairs while her and the youngest one were home alone, while everyone was either working or at school. And then it got worse from hearing voices to her actually feeling a presence constantly with her. So of course, that alongside with the middle daughter, or one of the middle daughters, Nancy, I believe, she was tormented too. Her room is noted as one of the most haunted. There have been shadow figures. She's been pulled from her bed. The list goes on for this girl. I would hate to be in that situation as someone that's experienced a little bit of paranormal in her life. It's kind of, but to actually have to live constantly with something like that, that's just a whole different spectrum. So after Carolyn figured out that they are dealing with something, a darker entity, she decided to reach out and find help. And so she found Ed and Lorraine Warren, two of the most renowned paranormal investigators known worldwide. They are the OGs when it comes to anything haunted or demonic. So Lorraine, she was a well-known clairvoyant, and Ed was a demonologist as well as a devoted Catholic. They actually both shared the same religion, and I thought that was really cool considering I grew up Catholic, so it kind of was cool knowing that, two people like that were able to help others in a way that some people wouldn't have thought. So they decided to hold a seance in 1974. It was the parents, the mom and dad, Carolyn and Roger, as well as Ed and Lorraine, and they brought a medium along to act as the conduit for whatever spirit entity was attacking this family. Of course, during the seance, it whatever is haunting them decided to, instead of attach to the conduit or the medium, it jumped to and possessed Carolyn, which made her levitate and get thrown across the room into the next room so hard with such a force that they thought she had actually died. And this freaked Roger out, so he ran to go help her, but Ed stopped him because he could have got possessed himself, which this made Ed upset. This made Roger, upset, and he literally punched Ed in the face, and since then they had never returned to the farmhouse. It was later that Andrea, a few years after she had grown up, it was then said that Lorraine had told Andrea that they were way in over their heads during that seance and that investigation. So that's kind of scary to know that, but of course that's when they were really becoming known for what they did. So moving along to the dark entity who haunts the homestead, they actually thought for a while, people speculated that it was Bathsheba Sherman. And she actually lived on the property in the 1800s, and she was during her care, she was labeled a witch, and because of during one evening in her care, she was watching an infant, and she was accused of killing the infant with a sewing needle or a crochet needle. Heard different things, but it was a needle of size to the back of the head of the infant, which ultimately killed it. And they said that she was did that for a satanic sacrifice. Of course, there's not a lot of records from the 1800s. Obviously, no one was record keeping at that time. So there is a record of her. However, there was none of a trial where she was trialed for witchcraft. Now, she did go to trial for the death of the infant, and she was acquitted of that crime. So people just kind of, once you were labeled that, you get a rep for it. And of course, back then it doesn't go away. So it didn't really help either that she had 3 children, and all 3 of them never lived past the age of 2. They all apparently have did die of famine or sickness. So that kind of didn't help her case at all, unfortunately. But of course, there are other spirits that linger in that home. Such as the 7 haunted soldiers. Apparently, they were buried by the wall, or in the backyard by the retaining wall. So it was said that one of the younger siblings of the parent family had stated that there were 7 dead soldiers buried in the wall. Now, of course, the parents took this as literally, and they thought, oh my gosh, there's dead people buried in our wall. And so they were, in the framing. Well, then Lorraine, when she came to the home, she had also heard, like, I guess spirit wise, or from the parent daughter, that there were 7 soldiers buried in the wall. And she said, check the retaining wall. It's a brick wall, or stone wall, I should say, that borders the home, the farmhouse. And so 2 of the previous owners, Corey and Jen Heisen, decided to hire a man who goes by Bob the Bone Finder, to use his ground penetrating radar to scope that area out to see if these speculations were true. And come to find out, they did find 5 about 8 foot long, 6 foot wide, I think it was about 6 foot deep, 5 6 foot deep, and 4 foot wide sections in the yard. And to this day, they still have them pegged so people can see, like, where they actually were. So there might be 7 caskets back there somewhere in the yard, from the wars. So that's kind of confirming that there are more spirits that have been buried on that property there that decide to stick around. However, for the last and final energy or entity that resides in the home is something of a darker energy, is what is claimed, and supposedly resides in the basement. Now, when the parents were living there, Roger would actually hang out in the basement to keep it company. What? I mean, why? But I get it. And he said it is actually very peaceful. So not sure how that goes. But moving along. So this energy is supposedly claimed as a puppet master for the other spirits, and kind of is a controlling the other spirits for, I guess, the interactions. Like, if they're good spirits and this one is more darker, obviously it's going to try to take as much power as it can. So and I know in the paranormal field, if those darker spirits or more demonic can take on childlike, more, I guess, feminine in a way, spirits, they just try to manipulate you and try to get you to open up and let them in. So there are known 2 children that run around the home, but of course, if you see a third and it's not a very pleasant vibe, just be careful. I was like, apparently the other 2 children are one is very shy and the other is very playful. So those would give off better vibes than a darker. We're talking about all this. Nobody knows truly who is all in the home, who resides there permanently, who passes through just as a stop on the way to their next journey. But there is also known as a lady in white that roams the grounds. I don't know if people really see her too often. There is also a man who likes to stay in the laundry room, and he is very old fashioned. So he will not talk to women if they present themselves to him. But men, you might have a better chance than we do when you investigate the home. Of course, there are many others that decide to venture into the home. So like I said, there's no way of knowing truly who is all there all the time. These are just a few of the spirits that were either on the property and that have passed, or that apparently reside there permanently. Like I said, this, like Andrea said, this farmhouse is disguised as a portal. And you never know what you're gonna get. As many more people decide to venture into this home, it is definitely on the bucket list for me to go and visit or even do an investigation for if I have the opportunity. Of course, I will link the website and their Facebook page down below. Check it out, you guys. This place is notorious. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. So until then, stay spooky. Please like, subscribe, turn on notifications for next week because I will have another video for you guys. And as always, happy hauntings.